What is it about William Shakespeare's writing that has moved so many for centuries? Some scholars believe it's because Shakespeare was the first to depict the process of thinking on the page. Shakespeare's language registered the newfound power of selfhood associated with the Renaissance, when the word self took on the now familiar sense of a person who is really and intrinsically he. Such a self becomes capable of thinking of itself as other than itself, protean, a murderer who smiles, a happy man who weeps. Poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge observed that, in contrast to contemporaries, Shakespeare goes on creating and evolving B out of A, and C out of B, and so on, just as a serpent moves, making a fulcrum of its own body, and seems forever twisting and untwisting its own strength. The language becomes the fulcrum of itself. Through all great troubled Shakespeare characters, Hamlet, Prospero, Lear, we experience this self-generating, self-conscious drama of discovery, their speech simultaneously twisting and untwisting, wayward and inevitable. And in Shakespeare, all brains worth listening to are troubled. "A turn or two I'll walk," says Prospero in The Tempest, "to still my beating mind." But we know that such turning can only make the mind beat stronger, which is ultimately what we crave. In King Lear, once exiled to the heath, Lear must learn truly to think, which is a way of saying that he goes mad. But by the middle of the third act, listening to Lear, we are experiencing not only the outward drama of self-consciously performed language, but the inward drama of a mind remaking itself by speaking itself. Between us and Shakespeare stands a long line of other poets who have observed this and trained our ears to listen for the sound of thinking. Virginia Woolf said of reading Shakespeare, "The words drop so fast one can't pick them up. This is not writing at all. Indeed, I would say that Shakespeare surpasses literature altogether." Woolf felt inexplicably intimate, not with language, but with preconscious activity, as if Shakespeare's language were providing unmediated access to the work of the mind, the work she herself aspired to capture in her writing. To become intimate with Shakespeare is, in this sense, to become intimate with ourselves. But the sound of thinking in our poetry has always been disjunctive, and whether we're reading Shakespeare or later writers, the best image for a poem's ultimate coherence is not the Ouroboros, the serpent with the tail in its mouth, but the serpent making a fulcrum of its own body, moving relentlessly yet inexplicably forward. Perhaps, if not for Shakespeare, none of us would know what we imagine thinking to be.